Greetings and salutations, travelers of the internet. Welcome to the Lit Round Table. I'm Anna.
And I'm Joseph, and we'll be your wise or not-so-wise mentors for today's audio adventure into all things storytelling.
What time is it, Joseph?
It's time to no. It's season 3.
Season 3, episode 1.
Year 3.
Can you believe that?
Nah.
Also, we're finishing up our 6th read-along book.
That's exciting. That's fun.
Yeah.
I'm always, whenever people are like, how many books did you read this year? I'm like, I don't know, but I do a read-along thing on a podcast, so I'm like
For
guaranteed
sure have 1 or 2.
I'm like guaranteed an X number of books each year. So
Yeah.
plus
Love
the other ones. So
Love
yeah,
it.
well, welcome to season 3. For those of you who have stuck around, thank you. And for those of you who are new, welcome.
Yeah, we're glad you're here, no matter how long you've been here.
And now that I have your attention, it's time for a shameless plug for our Patreon. But it's because we actually have, for our read-along books that we do, we have voting where you can vote on which book we should read next. And voting rights exist for people who are patrons on the Patreon. So go check it out. And the link is going to be in all the different places, so you can go look at that. Any tier will get you voting rights, but the second tier will also get you bonus content that you can enjoy. So that's always fun. But today we are going to be doing a bit of a deep dive into...
You sidetracked yourself. You were plugging
What?
our Patreon for the next read-along, and you should tell them what the next books are for the next read-along.
Right. I don't have the books. I even said this. I forgot to bring the books in with me where I record, so I didn't have like what books they are on my mind. But yes, you're right. Thank you. The 4 books that are going to be on the list for the voting are Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, Poppy War by R.F. Kuang,
Yes.
and Republic of Thieves by Scott Lynch, because we are reading the second book in The Gentleman Bastards right now, and that would be the third book. So we'll see. The cliffhanger is going to be insane because...
Yes. But also, I learned something new about the Gentleman Bastard series from one of our YouTube commenters.
Okay.
It is not a trilogy. It is going to be a 7-book series. And book 4 releases this year. Now... Now, I will
Excitement!
say... Yes.
Excitement!
Yes. Now, I will say that the last book was published in, 2013. So I think that it was probably originally slated to be a trilogy, and then they got approved for more. And so he's been writing more books in the series. So I'm hoping that means that Republic of Thieves will at least tie up what is for sure not going to be tied up in Red Seas Under Red Skies. But exciting.
I just want to know what's up with the chairs, man.
I know. Yes, and the commenter also confirmed that there was 4 chairs from the whole time. Remember, we thought that it was just 2 at one point,
okay.
And they were like, no, it's always been 4. So, anyway.
Well, good. Thank you, commenter.
Yes.
Coming in clutch with the fact checks. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. But also that there's going to be a 4th book is very exciting.
That is super exciting. Thank you for that little tidbit of knowledge as well.
A little bit of news.
I did hear a rumor about maybe a novella too, or something like that. So
that I don't know. I didn't look that up. I did fact check the 4th book though. I went to Scott Lynch's website, and he did have a book of novellas or short stories, but I don't know if they're set in the same world or if they're something else. I don't know.
I believe they are still about Locke and Jean.
Interesting.
But anyway, super exciting. Pumped for that.
Yeah.
Super pumped for that. Anyway, that's that. So, that's the shameless plug. So today we're going to be talking about Campaign 2 of Critical Role because Anna has completed it.
I have. And I've also watched this special.
Yes. Super excited for you. There were so many moments that I was just waiting for you to get to so that I could gush, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to thoroughly gush about
Yes.
Campaign 2 of Critical Role.
Yes.
So if you haven't
Wonderful.
seen Campaign 2, or if you're like in the middle of it, maybe skip this one because it's going to be spoiler ridden.
But if you just like the sound of our voice and you don't think you're probably going to engage in Critical Role content, and you're like, oh yeah, I like these kids, you just keep listening to us. Not that we're
Yeah.
kids, but we're SibNerds.
Still feels like it. I think being an adult is a myth, and you always just feel like a kid trying to figure it out one day at a time.
Facts.
And everyone's just winging it, man. We're all just winging it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we're going to be talking about Critical Role, and that could lead to rabbit trails about just like TTRPGs in general and how they can be used for storytelling, that kind of stuff. So if that interests you, you can stick around too. But anyway,
Yeah.
So first, just the usual business. There's probably a lot to update each other on in this area. So much so that there's probably things that I know that I've missed and will probably forget to mention. But how do we normally do this? Who goes first?
You're technically hosting, so you would normally ask me to go first, I believe.
Right. It's been a month, so I forgot everything. Anna, what have you been reading or watching or listening to or playing or writing?
I should have been more prepared. Here's what's happening, though. Let me just give a general little update for myself.
You should do that.
Explain why I do not necessarily have this information ready off the top of my head.
Your lists may be shorter in the future.
Well, okay. So I am a student again. I'm working on my MS-LAS, which is a Master of Science in Library and Information Science.
Maslaz.
I love that. Mrs.
Maslaz.
There's no A. Well, I guess there is. No, it's Library Information Science.
Oh, Masliz.
Mrs.
Masliz.
Anyway, so goofy. And I'm taking an information organization and access course, which like honestly makes my brain turn to mush. I feel so dumb every time I leave class. I'm like, I do not understand. I mean, I understand it, but it's like, it's thinking about stuff in a way that I haven't thought about it ever, which is always very challenging. But it's really good. And then my other class is a social justice and youth literature. And the reading for that class is extensive. Every week we have a children's book, a middle grade book, and a YA book that we're reading. And I've had 4 classes. So that's at least 12 books.
Oof.
And I know for one of those weeks we had optional reading, and I've checked out all the ones I could from the library. I don't remember the names of all those books. They've all been really wonderful. And like in a terribly hard way.
Yeah, like well written and important.
Yes. But heavy. So
maybe if you'd like to put like the titles of those books that you've read in like descriptions and stuff, you could do that. But I understand how that is a lot to keep track of.
Right. So I probably will not tell you every single book that I am reading now. But I will tell you the highlights, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. So highlights of what I've been reading. And I'm not reading all of these for class because I'm also reading Howl's Moving Castle for book club, which has been so enchanting and lovely. And it's so different from the movie, but it's so good. Like, I'm okay that they're different because they're both equally wonderful.
Good. I'm glad.
Yeah. Red Seas Under Red Skies, obviously, for our read along. And then I just finished reading the March, I'm drawing a blank on the word, not comic book, but graphic novel. It's a graphic novel series. So March, book 1, book 2, book 3, written by John Lewis. And there's another writer on it, and then the illustrator, since it's a graphic novel. But March goes through John Lewis's experience and role in the civil rights movement of the late 1950s and early 1960s. And it also shows, like, it's autobiographical. It's really well done. I learned a ton. Like, I learned so much. I'm embarrassed that I didn't know some of this stuff. So, but it's so easy to read and digest, and highly recommend. So, and there's a lot of libraries, like our public library here had it, but there's a lot of libraries that also have teacher guides too. So if you're like working with kiddos and you want to dive into that, I know it's meant for young adults, but like anyone can read it. I think it's valuable for anybody. So that's my big plug, is you should find the March series by John Lewis, and read that, because so good. And then what else? I'm reading A Magic Steeped in Poison, which is a YA fantasy with Asian influence by an Asian author, and that's part of my like capstone project for this class. So I'm reading several YA. It's diverse YA books. So sorry, articulation is hard because brain is half mush, but it is fine.
Yeah,
I'm doing really good.
you are.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you.
For watching, let's see. I started watching Demon Slayer again because I could have that on in the background while I was doing other things, and I didn't. And I'm watching it in English, so I didn't feel like I was like missing stuff because I've seen season 1 before.
Right.
I did finally get caught up on My Hero Academia, and oh my gosh, I didn't realize I was like 6 episodes behind, but I was. I was really behind. But so that was really good. I'm still watching To Your Eternity, but again, behind on that one. And since I have not caught up with the manga, I have to actually watch that. So like My Hero, even though I'm watching it in Japanese, since I've read the books, I can kind of like fib it. Like I don't have to watch super closely. But I don't have that with To Your Eternity, so I'm a little behind on that one. I feel like there was something else that I watched on Netflix. Do you remember? Did we talk about something else? Okay. We'll just go with that.
Okay. That's fair.
Besides the Critical Role, like that was a big deal. Like getting that wrapped up. So, and I'm up to date on season 3 or campaign 3. So, anyhow, what about you?
Well, for me, my reading list is significantly shorter. But
mine wasn't even that long this time, okay?
True. So, for me, I finished Rhythm of War.
Nice.
So I am totally caught up on... Okay, that's a lie. Because there are 2 novellas that I haven't read yet. But I am totally caught up on, like, the main Stormlight Archive books. I haven't read the novellas yet. But, man, there were some moments in that book that were just super, super epic. And also characters that made me want to cry. And it was great. Loved it. It's really tough to like recommend that series to people though, because it is so incredibly massive.
Yeah.
And intimidating and daunting. So I would only recommend it to you if you are an avid reader. And so if I know you in real life and I ever do recommend the series to you, just know that I think that you are an avid reader. Except for you, I'm not going to recommend it to you, Anna, because you have enough going on in your life, and that's the main reason why.
Thank you. It's it is on my list for someday, but also like I know the reader can't, or not the reader. My goodness, the listener can't see this, but behind me is literal bookshelves of books that I have not read yet. So I have a lot on my TBR.
For sure. Yeah.
So.
But I finished Rhythm of War. Super excited about that. So now I get to pick out a new book to dive into. And I'm debating between the second book in the first Law trilogy, because we read the first one during the read-along. Mm-hmm. That or Name of the Wind.
Joe Abercrombie book. That's the other one.
Joe Abercrombie. Mm-hmm. Or Name of the Wind by, I think it's Patrick Rothfuss, which is a pretty well-known series.
Mm-hmm.
So those are what I'm playing around with. But for watching, I've also been watching some Dimension 20 stuff. I watched some um, the Unsleeping City, I think is what it's called. I am in the middle of watching Escape from the Bloodkeep, which is one where Matthew Mercer is a player. And that's really
Ooh.
fun. And that one's all on YouTube to watch. And I didn't know until I started watching it that it is actually a Lord of the Rings parody.
Will you send me the link to it, please?
Yeah, I knew you'd want to
Thanks.
watch that. It's
Yeah,
the
I do.
premise. The premise is, well, I don't really want to spoil it. I didn't realize what it was until it was happening, and I was like, oh, that's like the fifth reference or trope that is. Oh, it's I see now. It's a parody. Okay, so
Yeah, I want it in my life, so please send me the link.
yes, okay, so I will definitely do that. Oh, that's been really
Thank
really
you.
fun. I've also, let's see, for anime, we finished Fate Zero and we're watching
Mm-hmm.
Fate Stay Night. That's
Mm-hmm.
been exciting.
That's the one we're watching together.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still watching My Hero Academia as it airs. I am behind though. I need to catch up on one or two of those.
You're not
Yeah.
6 episodes behind.
No, not six.
I
Um,
hadn't watched it since like Christmas, and then I was like, oh,
oh,
oops.
dang. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also reading Chainsaw Man as that comes out on Shonen Jump, but I'm a little behind on that too. There's some things that I've forgotten to go back to after getting back from California.
Yeah.
I've
Fair.
discovered, but so yeah, that's all been really good. Hope and I have also been watching Andor because she hasn't seen it yet, so that's been fun getting to watch that over.
I didn't know. Wow,
Huh?
that's great. I didn't know she hadn't seen it. That's great. I'm glad you're watching
Oh,
it with her.
yes. Yes, so don't spoil anything. We just got to the episode where Andy Serkis comes in. So yeah. So great. Yeah, for watching, I feel like that's pretty much it. And playing, we're still playing Dungeons and Dragons. The Dragon Egg is still there. um, we had a really, it's probably one of the top moments in the game so far, where we stumbled across these mushrooms where the spores, when you inhale them, will like sink you into a really deep, depressive episode.
Oh.
So we, but it's funny because like the barbarian in the group was like a weeping, sobbing mess, and it was just it
Oh.
was a really like it was really dark in the moment, but it was also really entertaining. Like
Yeah.
uh, as a
Who
player,
plays the barbarian?
Sam. Poor Sam.
Nice.
Sam, I'm so sorry. I know you if you're listening to this right now, bro, you need to go see like a shaman or something. You need a priest. Someone needs to lift the
You
curse
know,
of your dice rolls.
you should get him a dice jail, Laura Bailey style, that
Yeah,
he
that'd
can,
be fun.
and a new set of dice
Yeah. Oh
for
man.
temporary.
Yeah, but no, it's still been really fun. It's been fun, and I think that's gonna be. Oh no, for playing, I also um, have been playing Elden Ring, and that's been really fun. I've made a ton of progress on that actually, and I also got God of War Ragnarok, and I started that. Um, and Persona 4 Golden and Persona 3 Portable are all available on the Switch and the PS5 now. So I also have been playing Persona 4 because
Nice.
Persona 5 is just one of my favorite games. So I'm super excited to, even though I'm playing them in reverse order, backtrack through the series and
Yeah.
enjoy it all over again with new characters and stuff.
So, how many Critical Role voice actors are in 4 and 5?
I don't know. I know that um, I think Liam and Laura are in 3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know of any that are in 4, but they probably are.
Okay.
And I think
I only
the only one I know of for 5 is Matt Mercer as
okay.
Yusuke. Um,
The only reason I asked was because they had an ad
mhm.
on last week's Critical Role for, was it last week? And whatever, for
Yes.
Persona 3.
Yep.
And they were like joking about how they all had their beginnings in Persona. So I was like, oh, I wonder how many of them I didn't actually look it up. And then I was
Yeah.
like, Joseph plays that game. Maybe he'll know.
Well, for sure, Matt and Laura and Liam have all done voice acting for Persona.
Yeah.
I don't know about any others, but it's possible because those voice actors get around.
You know what else you're watching? You're watching The Last of Us.
Oh, yes. I knew it. I knew there was something else that I was forgetting about that's like currently airing. Yes, we're watching,
Yeah.
Hope and I are watching The Last of Us on HBO as that comes out too. And that has been
I'm
amazing.
I'm going to watch it. I just don't have time right now, but I am going to watch it.
I think I've said this to you before. Were you to make an exception to your zombies rule, this is the show to do it for.
Yes.
Because the zombies are at least like they're more unique than like Walking Dead zombies, and the story is way more compelling, and it has Pedro Pascal, and it's just it's so good.
Oh my gosh, I have to tell you this. I think the listeners will appreciate this as well.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to a guy.
As one does.
Not anymore. And not because of this. Like, nothing bad happened. It just, like, fizzled out. Whatever. And he was telling me that he was watching The Last of Us. And I was like, oh, it's on my list. And he was like, he'd played the game.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, I haven't played it, but I'll probably still watch it. And he was like, oh my gosh, you have to play it before you watch it. And in my head, I was like, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And then he was like, or at least watch a Let's Play, like on YouTube of it. And I was like, I've watched Let's Plays, but why would I watch a Let's Play of a game that I'm going to watch the TV show of? I know they're different.
You don't need to. You don't need
Thank
to. You will enjoy the story without it.
Thank you.
I mean, there's tons of people that are watching the show that have never played the game.
The only thing that I would watch a playthrough of the game would be to see Ashley Johnson voicing the main character.
That's one of the main reasons why
You know?
I would recommend you do is because Ashley Johnson is
Yeah.
a treasure that must be protected and supported in everything she does.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I mean, if you did watch a playthrough of it, there are more Easter eggs that you will notice that are like nods to things that happen in the game. But
Right.
so like you would have more of an appreciation for those things, but even if you are coming in cold, you're still going to enjoy the show. Like
Right.
I think you're still going to really like
Thank
it.
you.
So,
And I just, this guy didn't know me that well, but in my head I was like, I will be making an exception for this
yeah.
because it's zombies. So
Yeah.
I'm not,
You're not going to play a zombie game.
no, probably not.
And if you ever did watch a Let's Play, I would recommend someone that you already know and like. Like, I think
Right.
Markiplier has one that might be entertaining. But yes, The Last of Us on HBO has been a gem. So I highly recommend you check that out if you're interested. Yeah, it's been super cool. So that is pretty much it for catching up on all that stuff. I knew there was going to be a lot of that because it's been a little bit since
been a
we
while.
recorded one.
It's been a while.
Yep, there's a reference.
Speaking of,
Yeah, so Campaign 2.
also known as the Mighty Nein.
The Mighty Nein, which is getting an animated series.
I'm so excited.
And that leads me to another thing that I've been watching, which is
Oh,
season
same.
2 of Vox Machina.
Yes, that's what I was forgetting. I've
Yep.
also been watching that.
So many things.
Yeah.
Oh, so much. So yeah, Campaign 2. So as someone who was coming in to Campaign 2, like, with limited knowledge of Dungeons and Dragons and like RPGs. Wait, did you start watching before or after we started playing The One Ring?
Oh, before.
Okay, so you
I
were
think-
coming in pretty much totally fresh. Okay.
Because I remember asking one of our players if she had seen Campaign 2 because when we played that Wendy's
Oh yeah.
game, she had mentioned that she had watched Critical Role, but she only watched Campaign 1, so
I forget that we also played the Wendy's RPG.
yeah.
What a goofy time.
Which I saw that Critical Role has a version of that Sam DM'd, and I need to find it.
I don't know if it
Since I've played it,
I've also tried to look for that, but I don't know if it exists anymore. I feel like
Oh,
there
sad
was
day.
there may have been some kind of issue with that episode and they had to take it down. But um,
Oh, sad
yeah,
day.
because I've also tried to look for it and I can't find it. But anyway, so back to my question: as someone who is coming in like totally fresh, like
Hmm.
what I just want, just like overarching feelings, like from beginning to end. Like what did you think of the experience?
Okay. I think I had started watching campaign 3
Oh, okay.
before I started campaign 2.
Hmm.
I think, which is kind of impressive if you ask me. That I
Right.
watched all of campaign 2 while also keeping up with campaign 3.
That is impressive.
But I would say that starting out it was a little overwhelming, just
Mm-hmm.
like because I wasn't that familiar with who was who at the table. Like I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't have told you who like Marisha Ray or Laura Bailey were compared to Ashley Johnson. Like I couldn't have told you which one was which
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, or the guys. I didn't know any of the guys' names either. So that's a little overwhelming to like overcome. And then you're also learning their character names.
Yeah.
And then you've got Sam who's playing a female goblin,
Yeah.
which was also confusing
And then
to like
a
suss out,
female halfling.
right? But all of their voices for those characters were so unique
Mm-hmm.
that I wasn't confusing them with the campaign 3 characters because
Yeah.
they didn't sound anything alike.
Yeah.
So that was really nice, and a benefit of them being voice actors, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And the characterizations were all fantastic. Instantly loved Jester.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, she's kind of like the flagship character of that
Yeah.
campaign. Everybody like just immediately fell in love with Jester. Even the characters in the campaign, everybody fell in love with Jester. Like,
Which I thought was so cute during the
yeah.
wrap up when they were talking about it. Because she's just so sweet.
Yeah.
I didn't love Beauregard, which I felt bad for because I know there was a lot of controversy around that character anyway for Marisha. But she just was annoying and kind of came off like an arrogant
Yeah.
jerk.
Yeah.
So,
I know
which
the
was
word.
intentional.
It was part of her character.
Yeah, yeah. And it did grow on me eventually. But I was watching that in juxtaposition with her character in Campaign 3, which is Laudna, who I absolutely adore. So it was like weird to go from like, oh, Marisha, I love her character, to, ooh, I do not love this character. She's annoying. Like if I met her in real life, I'd be like, no.
Yeah. Yep.
I will befriend somebody else. But by the end, she's good. Really intrigued by Caleb right away. Ford was interesting. He also grew on me. At first he felt like kind of a throwaway character at first. Like he wasn't as developed, I don't think, or at least he didn't come off that as developed.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if
Is
Travis
this what you want me to talk about?
Well, I mean, no, we can go here. I was looking for
Okay.
more just like overall impressions of your first time, in encountering like Dungeons and Dragons type content.
Well, I had no clue like the rules around why they were rolling for certain things or why they weren't rolling for certain things, which ultimately that's a DM choice, right? So,
Right.
or like I didn't understand like the process of playing right away.
Fortunately, at least Matthew Mercer does a good job of like explaining, or like the roles made thematic sense. The thing for me when I first started, because this was kind of my first time doing anything with Dungeons and Dragons 2, was campaign 2, and the combat especially was very like hard for me to follow.
Yes.
Like why are they going in this order? What's going on? But that got better.
Yeah, agreed. I will say some things that I miss that they don't do anymore. When they would roll for initiative, at the beginning of campaign 2, they had like a flag thing that then Travis would like put their flags on so that they could keep track of whose turn it was. And then also we couldn't always see it, but like it helped because they would ask repeatedly, like, okay, who's next? Who's next? And then you knew whose turn was coming up. They don't do that anymore. And also I know that this was a thing that they did before they became their own company, and I can't remember now with the Geeks and Sundry, when they were part of Geeks and Sundry, they had the character like plates at the bottom of the screens with like updating stats
in the health bar.
Yeah, that was super helpful. I miss that. I understand why they're not doing it. I guess I don't understand. They could totally do it because they do other stuff,
especially since they pre-record now.
Yes,
but
so they could, but it's more manpower, whatever.
Yeah.
I guess I understood right away, like when that cut off, because they were switching hands, right? So like it made sense then, and then I was hoping that they would eventually pick it back up, and they never did.
Yeah,
but it's fine. If you're ever listening to this, Marisha, Sam,
Matt,
Travis, any of you,
the CEO.
Put the little character plates back underneath everybody again.
Yeah, with the health bar.
Stats. With the health bar.
Yeah. So going back to characters, because we're kind of going down that. No, that's fine. We're kind of going down that path. What I know you said the Jester was immediately like your favorite character, but just kind of briefly, just wanted to kind of get your impressions of the others too. I know you said Ford was kind of in the beginning.
Yeah, right. I know he had backstory developed for him. I just think that he also didn't. I don't think Travis fully knew, because I think he handed a lot of it over to Matt and was like, "You do whatever you want with this."
Yeah.
And then Matt like crafted the Ukatoa of it all.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But Ford became more interesting.
Yeah.
As time went on.
Yeah. I think for him it was more of like I want to play this character, like the warlock with the packed blade, and then working with Matt to try to figure out how to fit that in,
what that looked like.
And Matt came up with the Ukatoa stuff.
Right. Well, and I think Ford's journey of starting out as a warlock and then transitioning to a paladin was fascinating.
It was very cool
and really well done. Like there are some really cool Ford moments that I really enjoyed. But like starting out in the campaign, would not have guessed that character would have ever gone that direction. I don't know that Travis would have guessed either.
Yeah.
But
throwing the sword in the lava. Ugh.
Yeah, so good. Marisha's character we talked about, Bo.
How about speaking of Bo, what'd you think about Bo's Bo?
Yasha?
Yeah. Yasha?
Okay, Yasha. Again, I feel bad because Ashley Johnson was like super not able to be present for like the first half of the campaign.
Yeah.
So Yasha felt like a pretty two-dimensional character a lot of the time, which was unfortunate, especially now that we've seen her as Fern and like how she can like totally like latch onto a character and develop this amazing story. I'm like, oh, I wish we could have had that with Yasha, but I understand why we didn't because of scheduling.
Yeah.
I still think that Yasha, like in the end, she got a lot more developed because Ashley was there every week, but I think she was still hurt from like not having the lead up that everyone else had.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So she's on page 20 and everyone else is on page 50.
She just had. That's what happens when you have just less overall screen time. With a character, you're just not. They're not going to connect quite as well as the person who has been there every day from the beginning.
But I will say she committed to her bits. So like Yasha likes bugs. She committed to that.
Yep, and flowers.
And we find out why. And also she believes that she can telepathically communicate with Nott, even though she can't. But she believes it.
I love that so much.
It's very cute.
Yep.
So I liked Yasha, but I think I would have liked her more if Ashley would have been able to do her full justice to her.
Sure. Yeah. How about Molly Mock?
Molly Mock came off as a jerk.
Yeah.
In the beginning. And then they all like fell in love with him, and I was like, I don't really get why y'all like him so much. I mean, I love Taliesin.
Yeah.
But Molly was just like kind of a jerk and just out to ruffle feathers.
I think it's interesting that him and Beauregard had kind of like a clash. Like they didn't really get along. And I was like, it's because you're both jerks.
Yes, exactly.
You're too similar.
Exactly.
But
It's
Molly,
very true.
like Bo is more like a chip on her shoulder jerk, and Molly is just like he's just an agent of chaos. And
yeah, for sure. But Talison's second character, Caduceus, absolutely adored. I love Caduceus so much.
Caduceus,
he's so lovely.
He turned into one of, if not my favorite player character of the campaign. He had so many good. Well, he kind of filled a role that the party needed because Jester was a cleric,
but not a very good one.
No, not at all. Never really healed anyone and just missed her inflict wounds rolls constantly. But then Caduceus comes in to be the proper healer, which was really good. But he just had so many good dialogue moments, like the dinner with Trentacathon. There's just so many cool moments with him. Talking about how,
which is so funny because half the time he's like kind of dopey, right? Like,
yeah, he's like the Big Lebowski. He's like, hey, how's it going? Hey,
but genuinely tuned into his people, like, and would do anything for them.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah. But no, I agree. Caduceus is an excellent character. Love him a lot.
And Not the Brave, loved Not. Actually, think I loved Not more than Veth.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, once the transformation happened, I was like, I kind of just want Not back.
Yeah, I will say Not was more interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they're the same person, so it shouldn't have mattered. But
Not had more conflict because
yes,
it was almost like, like in a will they won't they romance, and then they finally do, and then it's like the magic's gone. It was kind of like that, where it was like, oh, is she gonna ever get her real body back? Oh no, like that was her main character development, like driving action, and then she did it, and it was kind of like, okay, you did the thing.
Yeah, like it happened a little too soon. Like Caleb figured it out too soon. Which was kind of funny because there were definitely moments later on in the campaign then where Sam would try to do something and then be like, oh no, I can't do that because I'm not a goblin anymore.
Yeah.
But the conflict then after Not became Veth again was, do I stay with my family or do I go with these adventurers? And like that was a constant conversation they had to have, which I understand why they had to have it, but it was kind of like, like honestly, you should stay home. Like you should not keep going out with these idiots.
Yeah.
Even though you love them and we love you, but literally, if you would have stayed home, your kid would not have been killed.
Yeah.
And then brought back to life, but that was a big old risk that didn't have to happen at all.
Ooh, the fire plane.
Yeah, that was a mess.
Ouch.
And then Caleb, Caleb fascinated me because I think at first I even told you like, I don't know about Caleb, but then it didn't take very long for me to be like, no. I have big feels for Caleb because what a traumatic backstory.
I was gonna say, wow, Liam, that boy has some trauma, and it's all your fault because you came up with
trauma with a capital T.
That rhymes with P, and that stands for polymorph.
Yeah.
No, that was Caleb was. He was so angsty in the beginning, but then you see the moments where like he cooks someone with his fire spells and goes into like a shell shock state, and then it's like, oh, he's he is going through it. Can't wait to find out what the deal is with that. But But yeah, for sure. And just one more. There's one more character, but it's an NPC. But they're still in the Mighty Nein, and that's Essek.
Essek, the floaty boy.
Yeah.
The floaty pretty boy.
Floaty pretty boy.
Essek is lovely. I so did not see... Well, okay. Once it was revealed that Essek was kind of like supposed to be a bad guy.
Yeah.
It made sense. I was like, oh yeah, that tracks. But I didn't see it coming because Matt played him so sincerely. And when I say bad guy, like he definitely has some like war crimes on his record. But yeah, it's Essek is really lovely.
And I do want to take a moment to just say shout out to Matt for the just world building in general, but especially surrounding the drow and like the dark elf culture and this whole this whole rebirth thing that they do. That's just a very interesting take on like elven immortality that I hadn't seen before, where it's not so much like the body's immortal, it's more like if
the soul.
Yeah, the soul is immortal and you'll be kind of like reborn in a new body. I guess if you're in the club, because it wasn't really like everyone.
It's if you're consecuted, right? Is that what Matt called it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But no, that was really interesting. So I just wanted a quick shout out to that.
Yeah. No, I also thought that was really fascinating.
But speaking of world building, what did you think of the world building in just Exandria in general? Because you've also seen Exandria Unlimited, you've seen Campaign 3, you're watching Vox Machina. What's your impressions on the world building that Matt Mercer has concocted?
So my question is all of Exandria Matt's? Like Exandria as a whole, is that a Matthew Mercer creation?
I believe so.
That is amazing.
I think it's D&D flavored fantasy because it exists in a D&D system. But so like there are some commonalities between like D&D content and his world. The Raven
I know
Queen.
they fight Vecna in Campaign 1 and
Vecna.
And the donor, the Dawn Father or whatever.
Some of the deities are the same, but there are some unique ones too, like all the betrayer gods, like the calamity. That's all. A lot of it, like timetable stuff, and like the primordials and all that is all Matt Mercer. So
I love it, and I love that he has set it up so that they're in like a post-apocalyptic system, and they just don't realize how far behind they've had to go.
Yeah.
Which like seeing the automatons and like that whole bit when they're up north and in Aor and they find some of the automatons and like, wow, so cool.
Yep.
So cool. No, I'm mad impressed.
Yeah.
With the world building. It's fascinating.
He is such a nerd, and I love him for it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking of, like, obviously this is his preferred method of storytelling, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
Creating worlds and then, like, letting people play in it and watching his player characters, like, explore and create their own stories, which I think is so cool. But, oh my gosh, just think of the books he could write.
Yeah. They exist. I mean... There's some books.
I mean, yeah, they do.
Yeah,
they do.
They're getting there.
Yeah.
No, but I really think that the whole Exandria thing has the potential to become like on par with like Dragonlance stuff.
Oh yeah.
If it's not already.
Absolutely.
I mean, in terms of like awareness and branding, I think it's probably surpassed Dragonlance. Just how many people know about Critical Role as opposed to Dragonlance, but. That reminds me. There was a reference to that in one of the episodes of Vox Machina. Did you see that when they were looting Gilmore's shop for like magical items when the dragons were attacking? Or have you seen you've seen the second season, right?
I have. I'm trying to remember what the reference was, and I kind of giggled to myself.
Vax was like, "Oh, the dragon's slaying Lance," and then it got destroyed.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It's very funny, tongue in cheek. Because of course, like without Dragonlance, then things like Critical Role wouldn't exist the way they do. You know?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They all build on each other and exist because of each other, which is so cool.
So I do want to also get your reactions to some key moments.
We haven't even talked about the Traveler. I feel like we have to talk about the Traveler.
No, we're going to.
Is he one of your...
In the
Okay.
key moments.
Okay.
So, I mean, there's so many moments that are showstoppers in this campaign, but the ones that stick out the most for me, when Molly Mock died, and it was
Yeah.
fairly, it was like episode 24 or something. Like, it was pretty
Yeah, it was early.
So what did you think about the death of a player character?
Well, it also happened when when Travis and Laura weren't there because they just had a baby.
And Ashley Johnson.
And Ashley Johnson wasn't there, but Ashley Birch was.
Yeah.
And I was kind of shocked. I was like, no way. Except that I knew that Cat existed. So I knew that like something had to happen to Molly in order for Cat to exist, right?
Yeah.
Because you don't just change player characters generally. But I wasn't expecting that, and I wasn't expecting them to like not be able to attempt to save him at all. But because they didn't have their cleric.
But even if they did, I don't know if they were high enough level for that. Like,
no, I don't think they were. Oh, and Nyla was there too, the other guest star, whose name I can't remember, but she was also lovely.
Yeah,
she's the other Furbolg.
The druid, the Furbolg druid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that was like kind of gut wrenching because everyone was so upset.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
and Yasha wasn't there, and like Yasha and Molly were like buddies. And so it was like, oh my gosh.
You knew that was going to be very dramatic.
Yes.
And I know that for you said Molly wasn't really a favorite character of yours, but he was certainly a fan favorite across the board. A ton. There's so many Molly Mock fans.
He was compared to Caduceus.
I mean, your opinion's valid. I'm not.
Thank you.
So you're fine. I'm just saying that when that happened, like there was so many bummed fans when Molly Mock died.
Yeah, well, I think people like Taliesin so much too, and like the characters that Taliesin creates.
Yeah, because they're just so weird.
They're very weird.
It's great. So yeah, the death of Molly Mock was definitely a really, really big moment in the campaign, which leads into, like, I didn't expect that to lead into the big bad of the entire story.
No.
And I thought that was a really clever way to use that moment and make it like even more important and impactful. This is skipping ahead a little bit, but what did you think about that whole reveal? Because that's what I was most excited for you to see was Molly Mock walking around again, but as Lucian. So what was that like when you first saw, or when you first realized that Molly Mock was kind of back?
Right. So before that happened, we had the reveal that he didn't have like a full-fledged backstory because he didn't remember who he was because he had died before. It's like we had this weird like, oh, he's died before. But I guess I thought like he wasn't really dead before. He was just like, whatever.
Yeah.
However they explain characters dying and then being ritualistically brought back. I don't know.
Yeah.
But then like he died and they buried him. And so I was like, wow, that's a real bummer. And then when Marisha started to like, as Bo was like, oh, but all these, and a part of me is like, did Matt tip her off? Like, hey, you need to start asking about these things. Cause it felt very out of the blue.
I don't think so,
Nine
though.
Eyes, I don't think so either, but it was really bizarre how she was suddenly like, the 9 eyes and the abysmal plane and like all this stuff. And Molly had 9 eyes tattooed on him, right? Or no, she didn't even know how many he had. It was just that he had eyes tattooed on him. And Yasha was like, yeah, I think it was 9. And they were like, what?
Yeah.
And then to have him like be resurrected and be somebody else who is terrifying. And then they had to fight him multiple times. And I just loved every time Travis being like, what have you done?
Yeah.
What did you do to us?
Yeah. Taliesin, what did you make?
Yeah. and Taliesin just being like, like the joy on Talison's face as all this stuff started to come out, because I think he genuinely wanted to know more about Molly's story too.
He knew nothing before waking up in a grave. Yeah.
So he was like watching a kid in a candy store, just like, what's gonna happen next? Which was really fun.
Yeah. I mean, you gotta appreciate a villain with a cool accent too, and Matt got to do like the Irish accent for Lucian. That was really cool.
Yeah.
So the next really big moment that I think we have to talk about is moments just keep shooting into my mind too, though, of like other things. But the Laura Bailey, maybe like one of the best moments in the entire campaign. The cupcake with the dust of deliciousness.
Oh my gosh, and the hag.
That was one of the coolest moments I've ever seen in a game.
It was pure genius.
Yeah.
And the dice were on her side.
Mm-hmm.
And even Matt was like, "You have got to be kidding me."
He was so annoyed. But also proud. Because
that was going to be like, oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Because that was going to be like a huge encounter, right? And then she circumvented it by drugging the hag, essentially.
With an item that nobody remembered she even had.
Uh-huh.
Like, even Matt forgot what it was and what it did. And it gave her disadvantage on all of her wisdom checks. Mm-hmm. So good. So good. Ugh.
And that ultimately, like, broke Knott's curse so that they could actually do the thing with the Dunamancy to get her body back. Mm-hmm. So it was a pretty important moment, for real.
Yeah.
But that whole sequence where, like, everyone went in and took their turns in with the hag, and, like, she wanted something precious. And, like, what all they were willing to give up for Knott. And Knott doesn't even know, because she wasn't in there. Like, she doesn't know what they were all willing to give up for her.
Jester almost lost her hands.
Yeah. Which would have been... Like, as that was happening, I was like, oh my gosh, no. Matt, do not let this happen.
At that point, that's like a time for a new character, because you can't do anything. You can't cast spells that require a somatic component. You're toast. You're done. So... Yeah, but that was one of the most clutch, insane moments I've ever seen.
So good. So good.
That set the internet on fire.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. I'm a little sad that I wasn't watching it as it was happening.
Yeah, you should look up, you can look up like clips of that has the chat reactions as well. And it's incredible.
That would be awesome.
It's pretty fun. Okay, so the cupcake. Key moment. Also, just the Traveler in general, especially realizing that Sprinkle was the Traveler the whole time.
I love that so much. Okay, TravelerCon was hysterical, but also heart-wrenching. Like, for Jester, I felt so bad for her because she just wanted to help Artagan so much. And he was being a little turd.
Yeah, he's an archfey, you know.
Yeah. But by the end, you're like, "Aw, Artie."
Yeah.
Which he showed up in the Legend of Vox Machina, which I didn't know. I wasn't expecting.
I was gonna ask you how caught up you were on that, so that I could ask you about that. I fangirled like a child because I had a theory when because he said, "I'm just a traveler," and, and I was like, "It's you. Your hair is red. You are Artagan. You opened up a portal for them to go back to Taldore. You're Artagan." So. And
then he transformed into Artagan. And then the voice changed to Matt, and I was like, that's so good. I love that so much.
I was so happy when that happened.
I love that they're making Matt actually voice some of his NPCs, because I think he's really hesitant to do that in the shows.
I mean, you don't want just your voice the entire time.
Oh, no, for sure. But like based on some of the like interviews that they're doing the watch parties or
Yeah.
whatever with some of the cast, and in the last one someone mentioned, because he's also the voice of one of the dragons, I think.
I think it's the black acid dragon is what he does.
Yeah.
I forget the name.
I can't remember either, but and he was like, yeah, they really like the other guys like Travis and Laura and those guys
Mhm.
like encourage him a lot to be like, no, you need to take on like, you can't just be like rando number 3. Like, take some of these other characters too. Like, this is your world.
He was also
I love that.
he was Silas Briarwood.
Mm-hmm.
So that was good. And then he's
So
gonna
I'm just glad that they're making
I
him
am too.
do that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so we talked about Molly Mock and Lucian, the cupcake, sprinkles. We briefly talked about Ford throwing his sword in the fire and how cool it was seeing
Mm-hmm.
the character development from
Mm-hmm.
Warlock to Paladin. So don't really.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we can touch on that more, but
Well, I guess in the special, he seemed very like distant from the Wild Mother at that point, which I wanted to know more about, but we didn't really get more about it. So
yeah,
maybe more specials to come.
I don't know if it was like a. It could have been.
Self-doubt
It
thing,
could have been.
or
I think. Well, as a character, he was bummed that he gave up the orb thing. Like
yeah.
he folded too quick in Travis's mind, but that encounter was set up for them to fail. Like
Oh yeah.
they weren't going to
Well,
win
Jester
that.
Jester was going to die.
Yeah, yeah,
So if he would have kept the orb and let Jester die, the internet would have hated him forever.
yes, for sure.
So he made the right choice.
Yeah, we got to see some of Kingsley too. That was fun.
That was interesting.
Um,
It's like he's kind of got the Yasha effect though.
yeah, a little bit.
A little bit. I'm like, I don't really care about Kingsley.
I liked it because I got to see some of a character that I missed from before, but at the
Yeah.
same time, I still wish that Caduceus was there.
They didn't even call him, which like Taliesin explained later, like even if they had called him, he couldn't have gone because he was working on rebuilding
Yeah,
the
the Blooming Grove.
the Blooming Grove, and like the spell that he was working on is like a year-long commitment of every day doing a certain thing. So
Yeah.
like he could not have left. So I understand, but they could have at least called him.
Yeah, just to let him know it was if they all died, they could have all died, and then Caduceus not known. But
Yeah.
anyway, I did think that was a really cool moment, and I'm glad that Matt was able to find a way for him to like get some of his powers back, so that he didn't have to just create a new character, because he just like stripped the magic from his warlock.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
Which is kind of fascinating when you're watching The Legend of Vox Machina and Grog get stripped of all of his strength because of a sword. I'm like, we got a weird theme happening here, Travis.
Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that. But also just the whole theme of evil swords. Travis needs to stay away from evil swords.
Well, then I'm like, what's Chetney got?
I'm expecting Chetney's wood chisel to start talking to him.
Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah. We talked about not turning back into Veth. See, and I feel like Bo and Yasha and kind of Caleb. Oh, Caleb had some big moments with just uncovering his backstory and just like the trauma and the drama with Trent Ickathon was always entertaining to watch. But I feel like Yasha and Bo didn't really. I mean, Yasha had some cool moments with like the what's his name, the Thunder dude, big Thunder guy,
The Stormlord.
the Stormlord.
Stormlord.
Where like her wings turned back into angel wings.
Yeah.
So like she had some cool moments, but I just feel like nothing was quite on par with like the Jester Cupcake, the Ford sword throw,
Right.
like Molly Mock coming back as Lucian. Those are just really tough moments to beat. So
Or like the moment that Caduceus totally handed it to Trent Ickathon. Oh, are you going to ask about the Happy Fun Ball?
Oh, I forgot about
'Cause
that.
that was
I forgot
fascinating.
about the Happy Fun Ball, but that was so. I thoroughly enjoyed everything involved with the Happy Fun Ball.
Mm-hmm.
That was such a cool way to like let. It's such a cool idea for a dungeon because it's like a never-ending dungeon that they can explore,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also some weird time modulation stuff, so they can like still go in the Happy Fun Ball and not waste a million days on the surface. Well, they could if it was set wrong. But it was like that for a little while, but they set it back, so that was good.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I really enjoyed the Happy Fun Ball.
Yeah.
What did you think about
No, I
all
loved
the
it.
escapades?
I wanted them to go back in it another again because they were like uncovering some weirdness. And I was like, I want you to go back and like keep digging at that a little bit, but also like fully recognize that Caleb could have just gone full dark wizard mode with that. So I'm kind of glad they didn't.
Yeah.
But I just felt like there was so much more to be learned.
I mean, there was a dark wizard in there
I know.
who was from Aor, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So it could all come back around again.
I mean, that guy's
sure.
not dead. They like trapped his soul in a rock.
Right.
Sucks for
Yes.
him, but he's not dead. And
Right.
Trent Ickathon isn't dead either. He's just imprisoned. So like he could conceivably come back.
Gosh, I hope not.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing, though. They fought Lucian in the abysmal plane, and then I was
Astral.
Trent Agath. Thank you, the astral plane.
Yeah.
And I was like, Trent Agathon is still waiting for you when you go back,
Yeah.
and he was.
Yeah.
He was
100%.
like right there.
Like
I was like, no rest, you guys. You've got a huge thing coming up. Yeah.
yeah, so campaign 2 is maybe one of my favorite pieces of fantasy media, and I'm so glad that you also got to enjoy it.
Yes.
Through all the twists and turns and all the ups and downs, I enjoyed getting all of your texts when things happened.
Yes.
It was awesome. I loved it.
Good.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
So I guess we'll see where campaign 3 takes us.
Yeah. To the moon.
To the moon and back, hopefully. Hopefully back again.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, I suppose. But yeah, that's campaign 2. I mean, there's so many other moments, you know, there's so much. It's like longer than One Piece. The amount of content in campaign 2. We could talk about it for 15 hours and still have things to talk about. But
It's true.
I'm glad that you liked it.
Yeah. And I feel like we offered some fair criticisms of it too. Like it wasn't all just gushing.
No, I mean,
You know?
well, I mean, it's hard to. I mean, you can criticize some character choices and you can criticize some like world building choices, I suppose, but it's hard to criticize some of the events that happen because a lot of it is just because of the dice and just chance.
Right.
Like,
Okay, here's a controversy though. Sam never re-rolling with his halfling luck when he would roll nat ones, except for when it had to do with that stupid dagger that he picked up and attuned to that was cursed. Which I thought was very funny and very appropriate because he was cursed. So of course.
he is such a chaotic person. Sam.
It cracks me up.
Oh my goodness. Ugh.
Which I think fit better with Not. Which I think is probably why once Not was gone and it was Veth, it didn't feel like it fit as well.
Yeah. Because I could tell he kept wanting to do his Fury of the Small for like extra damage, but I was like, nah, that's a goblin thing. You're a halfling now. But you're not reaping any of the benefits to being a halfling because you're not re-rolling your ones. Sam Riegel.
Yeah.
Man, Liam was tilted over that.
Oh my gosh. Which is, now that I know that, like watching campaign 3 and every time Liam as a halfling rolls a 1, he's like, I'm a halfling, I'm going to re-roll it.
Yep.
Like makes a big deal about it.
Yep.
Now I get it.
Uh-huh.
I get why he's doing that. It's just rubbing it in just a little bit.
Oh, and I was going to mention one last really big moment, and it was from the reunion, and that was Jester's character growth. And she does the mass cure wounds and like
Yes.
heals everyone for like 700 hit points.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's very cute.
Incredible.
Yes. Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, so I love those characters, and I'm so glad that it's going to be animated, and I am so excited to watch it. I know it just got announced, so it's going to be a ways down the road, but I'm super pumped for the Mighty Nein.
Ditto.
Cool. All right.
We didn't talk about Caleb's tower at all. It was really cool.
It is really cool. He can just summon a tower that they can live in, and it's like I wish I had that ability to just like have a pop-up wizard tower / house.
And it's manned by cats, except for the one time that he changes the cats into little wiener dogs. And it made me so happy.
It was
so cute.
It was very like Spirited Away-esque. Like, just like these magical servants that like do stuff for you. And yeah, it was cute. It was very cute. It was fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's campaign 2, y'all.
Yeah.
If you, dear listener, have listened to all of campaign 2, I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. And if you haven't, don't worry, we definitely didn't spoil everything. There's so much.
No.
So we spoiled like the biggest things, but there's definitely some fun things to discover.
Even the things we spoiled, though, like, you don't know when it's going to happen or how. So.
Yeah.
And some of it's very unexpected.
For sure.
Yep.
So yeah, I guess for the next week is going to be the last. No, sorry, that's not true. Well, I mean, we're winding down on the read-along, but we're not quite to the last one yet. But next week will be a read-along. So once again, go check out the Patreon if you want voting rights to vote for the next read-along book. As we finish up Red Seas Under Red Skies. I am already done with the reading assignment for the next one, and I may have
I'm not.
cheated.
Haven't even started.
I may just end up finishing that book shortly. Because it's just so good. So, we'll see you next week for the read-along, but I guess until next time, go read something cool.
And we'll talk at you next time.
Later.